Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome friends, ladies and gentlemen, to another video. In today's video, I would like to answer some of these skeptics whereby they claim that Jesus of Nazareth was someone that is made up. Jesus of Nazareth was a myth and he didn't exist. There's a scholarly work here that I have here, in Jesus outside the New Testament. Okay, this is by Robert Van Voorst. This is published by Ehrmans. Okay, W.B. Ehrmans. Now, when we talk about evidence for the existence of Jesus, we have to use outside the New Testament, and which is why I have this book here. There are many books written to counter the skeptics, whereby they claim that Jesus do not exist. But Ehrman has written a book called Did Jesus Exist? And there are many other writings. But what I found most interesting was this work by Van Voorst. Van Voorst on page 39, under the chapter Tacitus, okay, they executed Christ. Cornelius Tacitus is generally considered the greatest Roman historian. Okay? Yet we do not know his parentage, the city or year of his birth and death. Okay, perhaps he died maybe 56 or 120. There's a huge gap here. He was probably born in 56 and died in 120. Okay, or even his praenomen. Okay, we do not know that he held a series of important administrative posts, including the proconsul of Asia in the year 112 to 113, where he was the neighboring administrator to his friend Pliny the Younger. Pliny or Pliny. Okay, Tacitus' histories treats the year 69 to 96, the reigns of Emperor Galba, Othno, Vitellius, Vespasian, Tacitus, and Domitian. Okay, Vespasian and Titus was responsible for destroying the Jewish temple in 70. Okay. It likely had 12 books. Okay, he's referring to Tacitus, the histories, his work. Okay, there's a great one published by Harvard, a green book. Yeah, the Harvard Classic Loeb's Library. Yeah, it likely had 12 books, of which only books 1 to 4 and a part of book 5 have survived. Okay, the Annals is Tacitus' last and unfinished work, dating from around 116. It treats events during the year 14 to 68 of the Common Era. Okay, from the death of Augustus through Nero, in either 16 or 18 books. Okay, that is an introduction of who Tacitus really is. I mean, the chapter is long, you can read it. But what I'm more concerned is to talk about Jesus. Okay, now the textual integrity. Oh, I skipped too much here. Okay, page 41. Now, I've lost my train of thoughts here. Which page do I want to read to you? Yes, okay, I'll begin with page 41. Tacitus begins chapter 44 with purposeful ambiguity. He first lists the official act to cope with the aftermath of the fire, presumably carried out under Nero's direction. The Roman gods were appeased by special ceremonies. The Sibylline books of prophecy were consulted, resulting in further prayers to Vulcan, Ceres, Proserpine, and Juno. Okay. Ritual dinners and all-night vigils were held by married women. Then Tacitus reveals the reason for these measures. Okay. This is when the word Christians was mentioned. And Nero had this, to give you a background story, Rome was under fire and Nero wanted a scapegoat, and so they blamed the Christians. But neither human effort nor the emperor's generosity nor the placating of the gods ended the scandalous belief that the fire had been ordered. Okay? Therefore, to put down the rumor, Nero substituted as culprits and punished in the most unusual ways those hated for their shameful acts, whom the crowd called Christians, okay, or Christians. The founder of this name, Christ, had been executed in the reign of Tiberius by the procurator Pontius Pilate. Okay. Christus Tiberio imperitante per procuratorium Pontium Filetium supplicio et factus erat. I hope my Latin was correct. Suppressed for a time, the deadly superstition erupted again, not only in Judea, the origin of this evil, but also in the city, okay, of Rome, where all things horrible and shameful from everywhere come together and become popular. Therefore, first those who admitted to it were arrested, then on their information on a very large multitude was convicted, not so much for the crime of arson as for hatred of the human race. The regions was added to their end. They were covered with the skins of wild animals and torn to death by dogs, or they were crucified, and when the day ended they were burned as torches. Nero provided his gardens for the spectacle and gave a show in his circus, mixing with the people in charioteers' clothing, or standing on his racing chariot. Therefore, a feeling of pity arose despite a guilt which deserved the most exemplary punishment, because it was felt that they were being destroyed not for their public good, but for the ferocity of one man. Okay. Basically, in a nutshell, this was the very first time, okay, the word Christians was mentioned, and now there are many replies by the skeptic, which I will present in this video just to be fair. Okay? Was that Tacitus or Tacitus, however you want to pronounce his name. Tacitus was probably the correct way to pronounce his name according to most scholars. Tacitus was writing probably around the year 100, year 116 according to some scholars, but just put it around the year 100. And it could have been possible that his writings was actually influenced by the Gospels. Okay, and so Tacitus could not actually be used as an independent source. This is the argument that the skeptics have brought forward. A very strong argument. Okay, in fact, part of me actually take on board the argument that Tacitus cannot be used as an independent source. Now, what scholars have done in trying to counter their claim was that Tacitus was writing in Rome, probably around the year 190, around the year 80 to 100, or even much later before he died, in 120, according to Van Voorst. But that is not a strong argument, because we know that the Gospels have spread it throughout the Mediterranean. It could have been possible, according if you read Paul's letter to the Romans. Okay, there are already Jews in Rome that believe in Jesus around the year 50s, 48 or 50s or 60s. Paul probably wrote Romans, according to E.P. Sanders, around 62 or 64. But the Roman Christians, okay, to use the word Christians loosely here, if you follow the book of Acts, the word Christians was first used in Syria around the year 40s or so. And so it could have been possible that the gospel was already present in Rome. And according to tradition, Mark was probably written in Rome, Okay, but we do not know. So let's say if Mark was actually written in Rome, then we do have an account, okay, whereby Tacitus actually used Mark. We do not know, but I'm actually a bit heavy in trying to accept that Tacitus was actually an independent source, just because Tacitus have nothing to do with the New Testament, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't take from the New Testament. And it seems likely that he probably did. Okay? Because if I'm writing a history today, and if I want to write about a religion or a particular person, I would go to the source, okay, to the source of that religion, and then I will draw information from there. That is called research. And so it could possibly be that Tacitus was drawing materials from the Christians themselves, okay, when he was producing his histories. And that seems to be more convincing to me. Now, but what I do reject was that Jesus doesn't exist. Okay? I accept that Tacitus cannot be used as an independent source. Okay? And hence, I would say pretty much go against the very content of this book. Okay? Because this book was to present Jesus outside the New Testament using Roman sources and some other sources as independent sources. And I disagree with that. I don't think they are independent sources at all. I think there was an intermingling of sources. It seems likely because that is the natural way for people to do research. Yeah, and so that debunks, that goes against the proposal of this book. But anyway, that's besides the point. But what I do reject was the existence or the non-existence of Jesus. Okay, the evidence is just too many. The most convincing argument actually came from the New Testament. Okay, Mark, Luke, Matthew, and John, they were all independent sources of one another. Okay, they're independent of one another, though they have a common source called Q. But we do know, okay, that certain parts of these sources are different. And so we do know that Matthew, Mark, Luke have their own independent sources. And in all those independent sources, it is attested that Jesus do exist. Okay? And these independent sources is called Q, okay, which is very common sources, almost the earliest sources. M and L, Matthew and Luke as well. Yeah. And we also probably have Matthew and Markan sources, okay, double M squared for example, but most likely Q. But we should not ignore the Gospels outside the New Testament, like Thomas, for example. Okay, certain parts of Thomas actually can be dated to around the year 50s or 40s, even before. Okay? And Luke has with him a lot of sources because Luke was writing around the year 80. Probably took him 10 years to research, but he informed us that he has read many different sources and that he was writing an orderly account, meaning he went through a couple of sources, who knows how much, and then he came up with his gospel, okay, which was meant to be a counter of Markan's gospel, ironically. Again, that is a theological part, but just shortly, Luke has nothing to do with a man dying for the sins of humanity. Okay, the death of Jesus in Luke was actually so that people would repent. Okay, and so that counters Markan theology. Okay, again, these are all hypotheses. Okay, we do not actually know that Luke was actually trying to refute Mark. Okay, we do not know. But anyway, the evidence that Jesus exists is pretty much overwhelming. Even evidence in the New Testament or outside the New Testament, but the evidence, strongest evidence, is the evidence within the Christian corpus, because even though they're within the Christian corpus, but they're independent of one another. Okay, and all these Roman writings, they came much later on, and they were influenced by the Christian corporal writings, and so they cannot be used as I mean they can be used, but a much stronger evidence would actually to go to the Christian corpus themselves. So anyway, I hope this video have been enjoyable for you, and I'll see you on my next one.